Hello, welcome to The Print. I'm Amana Begam Ansari. Henry Nowak, an 18-year-old student, was stabbed to death on the 3rd of December in Southampton, England, by a British Sikh man, Vickrum Digwa. Months later, as investigations progressed, official decisions emerged and more details became public. Southampton witnessed riots and violence that reportedly left 11 police officers injured. A young life filled with hopes, plans, and possibilities ended in a crime, a tragic loss to society. His father, Mark Nowak, spoke about the grief the family would carry every single day for the rest of their lives, an appeal that they did not want his death to be used to create further division, hatred, or tension. Yet somehow, despite that appeal, the child of a Polish immigrant has now become the face of White Lives Matter. What happened was tragic and horrific. Part of the public sentiment also seems to come from the chilling footage circulating online, where Nowak was reportedly saying that he had been stabbed, but a police officer appeared to respond, "I don't think you have, mate." I can understand why such footage creates anger and frustration. Watching someone in distress not being taken seriously. But the question remains, how did this turn into violent responses and much larger political storm? For part of that answer, one can simply look at the response from UK MP Nigel Farage. In the past, when Metropolitan Police officers Wayne Cousin kidnapped, raped, and murdered Sarah Everard, Farage explicitly appealed for calm and argued against using that tragedy to launch broader attack against men or institutions. But now the language appears very different. Instead of appeal for peace, we hear phrases like cold fury. It is also interesting because this is the same politician who in the past spoke about preferring Indian immigrants over Eastern European migration, perhaps shaped partially by his Brexit politics. Yet suddenly, a British citizen from a Polish immigrant's background easily becomes absorbed into a broader white identity narrative. And that made me wonder what exactly changed. It feels that different responses to tragedies cannot be shaped by what happened, but by who was involved and what political story can be built around it. The cynical exploitation of tragedy has become so normal that it barely registers anymore. Because the larger idea seems to be building a narrative around white victimhood, that the majority population is somehow facing systematic double standards from institutions, often described through phrases like two-tier policing. Whether statistics or broader data support such claims often become secondary. One incident, one once attached to a larger political narrative, can become enough on its own. I have also noticed something else during this conversation. There are some people from Indian background, Sikh, Hindu, and other, who often agree with Reform Party or even far right politicians' positions because they have genuinely believed that Muslim immigrations or Islam itself is the central problem. Some of them strongly identify as a British and ironically do not want newer immigration from South Asia arriving either. There is even a term sometimes used for them, freshies. The assumption often seems to be we are different. This is not about us. This is not about our brown skin. Which is why it is interesting to see how quickly such a distinction can disappear. Tommy Robinson stood outside a police station and quickly connected Nowak's murder with Pakistani Muslims and grooming gang narratives. The tragedy itself almost became secondary. What struck me is how quickly a personal tragedy became part of a much larger political story about betrayal of white people by institution and the state. And in such a politics, I sometimes wonder whether the difference between Muslim, Indian, Sikh immigrants or simply brown matters as much as people think it does. The other debate emerging from this tragedy is around banning the kirpan in public spaces. While Britain has traditionally allowed religious symbol and accommodation in public life, the Henry Nowak case has once again raised question around religious exemptions for ceremonial Sikh blade. To be fair, that itself is a much larger debate, one involving religion, security, accommodation, minority rights, and where societies choose to draw boundaries, which probably deserve an article of its own. Furthermore, something that I am not seeing discussed enough is the incident itself and the behavior surrounding it. Allegations around family members attempting to hide what happened, going to extreme length to protect their son, introducing claim of racism into the narrative, or even attempts to hide evidence raise uncomfortable questions beyond politics alone. It also says something says more about something personal. Growing up as a South Asian, there are certain values many of us are taught from childhood: to stand by blood through everything, to protect family no matter what. That in the end, it is always us versus the world. But sometimes I wonder whether this mentality also makes us lose sight of something bigger. When loyalty towards family becomes everything, we forget we are also part of a larger society and a shared humanity. And this is the most uncomfortable question here. If someone from your own family committed such a crime, what would you do in that moment? Would you choose family loyalty, or would you choose what is right?